All right, today we're going to break down India's 2026 union budget. And let me tell you, this is way more than just a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet. Think of it as a high-stakes blueprint for how the world's most populous nation is planning to build its future and really to become a global powerhouse. So the big question is, how are they going to pull it off?
I mean, just think about that for a second. How do you even begin to plan an economy for 1.4 billion people? It is a massive, massive undertaking, right? You've got to somehow balance what everyone needs today with these huge ambitions for tomorrow.
And the answer, at least according to this budget, is a really careful balancing act. On one side, you've got these huge, ambitious plans for growth, but on the other, there's a super clear commitment to keeping the nation's finances in check, being responsible. And here's the proof of that discipline, right here. The government is targeting a fiscal deficit of 4.3% of GDP. Now, in simple terms, that just means they're trying to borrow less money to pay their bills. And that's a really powerful signal to global investors. It tells them India is serious about managing its money, which, you hope, attracts more investment and keeps the whole economy on a stable footing.
So what's the big idea, the guiding philosophy behind all these numbers? Well, it all comes down to a concept called Viksit Bharat. Let's dig in and see what that vision is all about.
Viksit Bharat literally translates to developed India. And the goal is, well, it's huge, to completely transform India into a fully developed nation by the year 2047. Why 2047? That's when the country will celebrate a full century of independence. So pretty much every policy, every single rupee spent in this budget is meant to be one more step towards that 2047 goal.
Okay, now this table tells a really fascinating story. Just look at that line for capital expenditure. That's the money being spent on creating things for the future, like roads, ports, and factories. It's up 9% to a massive 12.2 lakh crore rupees. But here's the kicker. Even while they're spending way more on building for the future, the fiscal deficit, the amount they have to borrow, is actually shrinking. So the big takeaway is that they're investing heavily in growth while getting more financially disciplined at the exact same time. So that brings us to the first major piece of this puzzle, building the physical foundation for a future-ready nation. We are talking about absolutely massive investments in making things in India and connecting the country in a way that's never been done before.
And believe me, this isn't just talk. The government is pumping serious cash into these key future-focused industries. Take the 10,000 crores for Biopharma SHAKTI. That's all about making India a global hub for advanced medicines. And check out the 40,000 crore for electronics components. That is a staggering amount of money, all aimed at making more parts for our gadgets right there in India. It's all part of this bigger strategy for self-reliance in the industries that are going to matter most tomorrow. Now, a huge part of being self-reliant is controlling your own critical resources. This slide lays out the game plan for rare earth minerals. The stuff that's essential for everything from electric cars to defense technology. The goal here is to own the entire process. So India won't just be digging these minerals out of the ground and selling them off cheaply. No, the plan is to control every single step, from the initial exploration to the mining, the processing, and all the way to manufacturing the final high-tech parts themselves. Let's just come back to this number for a second, because it is absolutely staggering. This is the total capital spending on infrastructure. And to put it into perspective, this is nearly 6 times what India was spending just a decade ago. It is an unprecedented push to build, build, build. And where's all that money going? Well, a big chunk is for this, a massive connectivity overhaul. Just look at this list of 7 brand new high-speed rail corridors. These aren't just train lines, they're designed to be growth connectors, basically shrinking the vast distances between India's major economic hubs and weaving them all into one seamless high-speed network. Okay, let's move on, because big infrastructure projects are one thing, but the real day-to-day engine of India's economy, that's its millions of small and medium-sized businesses, the MSMEs. And this budget puts a major focus on giving them the tools they need to succeed. So the government is tackling this from 3 different angles. First, there's equity support through a dedicated growth fund to inject cash so these smaller businesses can scale up. Second, liquidity support, basically forcing government agencies and big companies to pay their small suppliers much faster. And third, professional support, creating a whole new class of affordable advisors to help these small businesses navigate all the complicated paperwork and compliance stuff. And this chart, it's the perfect example of the scale of this ambition.
The original scheme to boost electronics manufacturing was so successful that it attracted almost double the investment it was aiming for. So what did the government do? They didn't just meet the new demand, they basically said, let's double down, and nearly doubled the funding to 40,000 crore to keep that momentum roaring ahead.
Of course, a modern economy isn't just about factories and trains. You have to invest in your people. So the third major pillar of this budget is all about investing in India's greatest asset, its people, especially its enormous youth population.
And the focus is really on skills for the 21st century economy. A perfect example is the AVGC sector. That stands for animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics. The government is even calling this India's orange economy, and they see absolutely massive potential here for creative jobs and, global cultural influence. So why the big focus on AVGC? Well, get this. By 2030, this sector is projected to need 2 million skilled professionals. That's a huge number of jobs. So this budget is laying the groundwork now to train that workforce, setting up content creator labs in thousands of schools and colleges all across the country. And investing in people goes beyond just job skills. It's also about their health and well-being. The budget is making some really smart moves here, looking both outward and inward. They're building new medical hubs to position India as a top destination for international patients. At the same time, they're also training over 100,000 new caregivers to support the country's own aging population. And crucially, there's a major push to upgrade mental health facilities, finally recognizing it as a key pillar of national well-being. Okay, finally, let's get to the part that affects pretty much everyone's wallet directly: taxes. The budget is introducing a complete overhaul of the tax system, with a big goal of making it simpler and way more transparent for everybody. And when I say overhaul, I mean it. This is a huge deal. The old, incredibly complicated Income Tax Act from way back in 1961 is being completely replaced. The new act, which will kick in April 2026, is being designed from scratch with one main goal: make the whole tax system simpler, clearer, and less likely to end up in a legal battle. And here is a perfect, real-world example of that simplification. The tax that was collected on money you send abroad for things like travel or education or medical bills, it used to be a confusing mess, right? It ranged anywhere from 5 to 20%. Now, it's a simple, flat 2% for these key things. That's a direct, easy-to-understand benefit for a lot of families. So, here's a quick look at how this all rolls out. The new Tax Act kicks in on April 1st, 2026. There's also a one-time 6-month window for people to declare foreign assets. But look at that last point: a massive tax holiday for foreign tech companies that build data centers in India. And that incentive runs all the way to 2047. That is a very clear, long-term play to make India a global hub for data. So, we end right back where we started. This budget, it isn't just a collection of policies. It's really a calculated bet that you can build a nation from the top down and the bottom up, all at the same time, by pouring money into massive infrastructure and high-tech manufacturing, while also empowering small businesses and upskilling its youth. India is trying to create this powerful, self-reinforcing cycle of growth. The ambition is absolutely undeniable. The real question is, will this be the blueprint that truly launches India as a leader in the 21st century global economy? Well, that is the multi-trillion-dollar question.